Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, so get it healthy, right? Healthy, because, right. Okay, so I'm talking about Monsanto. Can I get a quick show of hands? Who has heard of Monsanto? Okay, that's awesome. A lot of people. Yeah, so you might have saw I had diabolical crossed out. I'm not sure I can really use that word without getting sued, so let's pretend I didn't use it. So if you go to Monsanto's website, this is what they brand themselves as a sustainable agriculture company, which to me is kind of a joke. What they brand as sustainable agriculture is GMO seeds, so genetically modified organisms, genetic engineering and biotech, and herbicides and pesticides. So they somehow call that sustainable agriculture, which is a mystery to me. So Monsanto's main business is a chemical called Roundup. It's the most common herbicide in the country. It's a molecule called glyphosate, or I don't know how you pronounce that, but it's close enough. So it works by inhibiting enzyme production in actively growing plants. We use about 100,000 tons of it every year. In 2007, that's how much we used. It's the number one selling herbicide, and it has been since the 80s. So the Roundup kind of works in conjunction with this technology called Roundup Ready, which is a genetically modified organism. It's a type of seed, so all these crops up here are available in Roundup Ready. It should scare you. 90% of the soy grown in this country is genetically modified. And the other scary thing is it's not labeled, so there's really no way to know what you're consuming. So the other scary thing, Monsanto holds patents on their Roundup Ready crops. They have a patent on life, a form of life, and it actually took a Supreme Court decision to make that possible. Up until about 30, 40 years ago, it was illegal to patent life, but now it's totally legal. The other bad thing, farmers can't save their seeds, which is awful because it costs them money every year to rebuy their seeds. So this technology has bad effects for farmers. It degrades their soil. Roundup's been proven to degrade soil when it's used over a period of years. It also causes them to be dependent on the seeds and the chemicals because every year they have to buy the seeds and they have to buy the chemicals to use with the seeds, and then they have to buy more chemicals because their land becomes less fertile and produces less. It also makes us vulnerable to chemically resistant pests and weeds. The more we are reliant on chemicals, the less we're reliant on good old-fashioned hand labor to weed and that type of thing. We can get super weeds that the chemicals no longer work on. So consumers, there are unknown health effects from GMO crops. It's never been tested by a government entity. There's no health testing on the health effects of GMO crops. There's also known health risks of herbicides, like they're chemicals, they're poisons. You look on the back of the bottle, it says it's a poison. It also leads to lower biodiversity. We have 97% fewer types of crop species than we did at the start of the 20th century, which is awful. So how do they get away with this? Because it's a big revolving door between the government and Monsanto executives. Here we've got Clarence Thomas, a U.S. Supreme Court justice, was a career lawyer for Monsanto. Michael Cantor is a U.S. Secretary of Commerce. He was on the board of directors on Monsanto. In the USDA, we had Ann Veneman, who's the head of the USDA, which is the regulating body in charge of regulating genetic engineering. She was on the board of directors at Monsanto. Linda Fisher is the head of the EPA, and she was a vice president of government relations at Monsanto. These two are the worst, though. Margaret Miller, she was the deputy director of the FDA, overseeing the approval process of RGVH, which is the recombinant bovine growth hormone. Before that, she was the lead researcher on that project. She went on to approve the project in our government. Michael Taylor, he's been going back and forth. He was a legal advisor for the FDA, then went on to be legal counsel for Monsanto. He went back into the government and then back to Monsanto as a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. That's how Monsanto gets away with this crap. And things don't look good. We've got agriculture, industrial agriculture has become the norm in the world. Developing countries depend on it. There's all these problems, so what can we do about it? Vote with your money. Know what you're eating, know what you're putting into your body, know where you're spending your money. Your vote, when you go to the voting poll, probably doesn't matter, but everywhere you spend your money every day, that's what matters. So know where you're getting your food from. Plant a garden and research it more. There's an author named Michael Pollan. Hopefully you've heard of him. He's great. There's a movie called The Future of Food. It's on Netflix. You can watch it for free. If you don't have Netflix, it's on Hulu for free. Go watch it. It talks about everything I just talked about, but it's an hour and a half long and covers it more in depth. So, yeah, learn.